So these are the top 5 decks to climb to Legend with, and we're going to start off with Curse Implok, which is honestly just ridiculously broken. I mean, you have one of the best early games in the game with the Imp package. You're able to finish off your opponent late game with a ton of curses. There's really no stopping this deck. Really, the only counterplay to this deck, if you are playing against it, is to, once you wipe their board a couple of times, try to keep your hand as full as possible so they can't give you a ton of curses and burst you down. So that way, maybe you can do something. The only issue with that is you can only play like 1 to 2 cards a turn, so unless you're playing like a ton of big bombs, you're still probably going to lose in the long run. Honestly, I think this deck is the strongest deck in the game, and I don't think it's really that close, but number 2 is actually somewhat comparable. The only deck that even comes close to matching the Curse Implok, in my opinion, has to be the Bless or Naga Priest. There are 2 main versions of building this deck. I like this one a little bit more. Doesn't run as many Nagas, but it pops off a little bit harder, a little bit sooner. You're more consistently able to draw important cards off of Switcheroo, and you're able to get slightly bigger minions early on with the power word Fortitude. Overall, this deck really just gets a huge minion or 2 on turn 5. If that gets wiped or silenced, you can probably do it again around turn 7 once you draw a couple new cards, and if that doesn't work, maybe you steal a cool win condition with Identity Theft. But overall, being able to win the game turn 5, 6, or 7, even if it's like more of a combo, is still pretty good. The next deck on the list is going to be an extra large Beast Hunter, which basically just plays tempo, which means you want to just play the most expensive thing you can on every single turn. The only turn where this doesn't work super well is turn 4, because you only have a couple of options, and in that case you just play like a 3-drop and a 1-drop or whatever else you have left in your hand, and you go from there. Then you have really good mid-game and late game with several big beasts and a lot of late game win conditions with Tavish, Huntsman, Altimore, basically every single big beast, Wing Commander, and Sire Denathrius. The only thing I might change about this deck is if you did dust any of the Wild Seed cards, it's fine. I would probably recommend replacing it with either a Revive Pet for some more snowball late game, or you could replace it with some extra 1-drops, so that way you can just contest the board a little bit more, maybe like a Spring Paw, a Sunscale Raptor, because I know a lot of people did dust these as soon as it was nerfed because they're epics, and that's a lot of free dust. Next on the list is going to be Control Paladin. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can build this deck. For example, some decks are starting to run Spammy Arcanist as an extra way to combo with Equality, so you can change the deck around a little bit and take out something like Treasure Guard. This is just the build that Meaty used to hit rank 1 not too long ago, and overall the idea of the deck is pretty simple. You just want to play the Order in the Court so that way you can tutor out your big cards, play Cariel on turn 8, Jailer on turn 10, Sire Denathrius right after that to heal up a bunch and get a 10/10 lifesteal immune minion, and then you want to play Reno if your health ends up getting low and you need a quick reset. Overall, you don't have to play in that order, obviously. If you're in a pinch and you need to survive, Denathrius before Jailer is definitely viable, and yeah, it just has some pretty good tempo as well. You have good 2 and 3 drops, so you definitely survive up until that late game pretty consistently, not to mention the fact they have a lot of healing. I also seen some decks run the Holy Mackie roll, so it really comes down to what deck you like. The last deck on here might be a little bit surprising before I get into the number 1 budget option and my Dark Horse option that could be really, really strong, and that is going to be Hero Power Mage. I think Big Spell Mage might be better, at least for me. But every time I talk about it, people are like, oh, I never draw the big spell cards, I never draw the Barbaric Sorceress. So I think this deck overall is just more consistently good, even though I think the stealing is a little bit lower. And it's Hero Power Mage. It's a deck somebody used to get to rank 3 Legend, and overall, you scale up your hero powers really, really quickly. You have a decent amount of freeze, along with some armor gain with the Cold Case, as well as Magister Dawn Grasp. You can pretty easily get 2, 3, sometimes even 4 solid alibis over the course of a game, so even though you don't have 40 HP, you're able to still survive a lot and draw things consistently in a 30-card deck, and then close it out with big hero powers from Magister or Mordresh. It's just good at basically every stage of the game, and you consistently draw the cards that you need. So the next deck is the budget deck of the week, and it is going to be Beast Druid. It's no surprise, it's basically my budget deck every single week, and it's less than a legendary. It's 1,540 dust. It has an insanely high win rate. On Hearthstone Replay, it has the 4th highest win rate overall, and this does fall off once you get to like the mid to high legend area, but climbing to legend, and if you're in like lower legend, just playing around trying to, because you like the game, this deck is phenomenal. Games are fast. When people aren't playing optimally, you can completely win the game by turn like 5 or 6. You can potentially trick your opponent into thinking you're a ramp druid at the beginning and then surprise them with a ton of burst. And again, it's really cheap and really simple. You just slam 1-drops, slam 2-drops, and then pump them up with Herald of Nature, Pride's Fury, or Sow the Soil. It's one of my favorite decks right now, especially because of how cheap it is, and I recommend you trying it out if you want to climb on a budget. So the last deck on this list, the dark horse, if you will, the one that might be really strong but hasn't quite proven itself yet, is Jay Alexander's Miracle Rogue, which is really strong. It has a steep learning curve, so don't necessarily craft this deck thinking you're going to pop off immediately. I started going, I think, 1-4 with this deck, but by the time I ended, I was 11-6 on stream just the other day, so definitely takes a little bit of time to figure out what you're doing. You need to know when to commit to combos. You need to know how much damage you can do exactly, because if you can do enough damage over 2 turns, then you can commit, but if you can't, maybe you try to wait an extra turn. It's just a lot of things. You also have to play like 14 cards in 1 turn while also thinking about what to target and everything. It's a mess. So overall, this deck is really fun, really complicated, but has the potential to be quite good. And so I would recommend trying it out if you like those styles of APM combo, just hard decks, because it can be really rewarding and feel really fun when you pop off with it. So overall, hopefully you guys enjoyed this tier list. I try to keep it to 5 decks with a couple of my own personal preference ones thrown in there. And yeah, if you think I missed anything, put them in the comments so other people can read it and potentially just find other decks they might be interested in. I just picked the top 5 best for me. I mean, obviously there are a lot of other good decks. There's Control Shaman, there's Imp Warlock, there's Enrage Warrior that is starting to see a little bit more play. There is Fell Demon Hunter with the Relic package with Jace as the top end. They're just not quite as good in my opinion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.